We've all had those days where not a single cell in our body wants to accomplish the X, Y, and Z goals that we set for ourselves for that particular day. Whether it's working on your music, YouTube channel, business, or whatever. There's this huge urge to just lay in bed and let your mind, body, and spirit get consumed by nothing but by artificial foods, dread, and a deep content hole of just straight brain rot. I'm making this video because this is something that I'm currently experiencing. Over the past week, I've been sick and dealing with some flu-like symptoms. I typically don't get sick much, but when I do, it takes me a bit longer than expected to feel like me again. During this week, I felt this sudden urge of fatigue, brain fog, and not even a slight hint of vibrance or willpower to accomplish the goals I set for myself. Yet, during this same week, I've been able to complete 4 assignments for school, and they were pretty intellectually heavy for me. I rebuilt and ordered a new PC, stayed on track with my 9-to-5 obligations, redid my entire room, listed my car and sold it within 24 hours for top dollar, worked on my YouTube channel, worked out, cooked 5 times, and so on. I remember when doing all those things in a month would have been a great accomplishment for me, and now I do those in the span of a week where I'm sick. And I'm not saying this to demoralize anyone, or I get that most people who clicked on this video are probably struggling to get the ball rolling. My intention in sharing what I did this week is to show that yes, it is possible to break out of that rotted, procrastination-filled state that can feel like a mental prison sometimes. There's a handful of beliefs around goal setting that I've set for myself over the past year that have helped me stay somewhat productive, even on days when I'm not feeling my best, physically or mentally. A big one for me is trying to make my goals as frictionless as possible and finding the easiest way to fulfill my task. I hate to sound like that guy who only quotes big names and uses overplayed cliche quotes, but this one sticks to my mind currently. I chose a lazy person to do a hard job because a lazy person will find an easy way to do it. Bill Gates. And that's probably paraphrased. Most people hear this paradox and let it go over their heads because how can a lazy person do something faster? Isn't fast and hard work usually associated with long hours? Over time, I've had some big paradigm shifts. One of them was dropping the idea that achieving goals has to involve some grueling protocol. Honestly, I feel like I get 10 times more done now than I did in the past, back when I was way more quote-unquote hardcore about goal setting. So, how is that possible? Simple. Create less friction between your current self and the version of you that's already accomplished the goal. I find that people overcomplicate their to-do lists and goals. Things as simple as getting a car, getting a degree, finishing a biblical text, landing the dream job, and so on. I've tried so many of the different productivity tips and techniques out there, and the simplest ones always tend to outperform the more complex, perfectionist level systems. For me personally, my goal is to make it as easy as possible to win. Let me explain. Right now, I don't want to write the script, but I made it so easy for myself to get started that I've now been writing for 30 to 40 minutes, and I'm finally starting to get into a flow. Today's Saturday, I made a list of what I wanted to get accomplished for the day, and I ranked them by priority. One being the most important and complicated, and the rest being less intense. Here's my morning routine for today. Finish school essay and turn it in, check. Eat breakfast and lift, check. Get groceries for the week, check. And the funny thing, I did go to get groceries for the week and I forgot the platter of chicken at self-checkout, but whatever. Sit down and finish the YouTube script, check. So how do I reduce the friction between my current self and the version of me that's completed the task? Goal is to simplify things to its absolute minimum. Example to this would be, have a kitchen timer on your desk, set a time that you think it'll take, and just start. For example, this is my absolute minimum for sitting down and getting some work done at my desk. I have a kitchen timer on my desk. I set a time that I'll think the task will take, and I just start doing it. I close all distractions, no phone, no tab, no external stimulus other than Google Docs and Brain FM. From there, everything else is clear. And then I start working. Here's a gym example one. I canceled a gym membership that was 20 minutes away and replaced it with one that was 5 to 10 minutes away walking distance. I use AI to help me create a plan based on my needs and to build workouts I actually look forward to. I used to struggle with certain lifting or stretching routines because they felt like a chore. But through trial and error with AI, I found workouts I enjoy, or I can at least tolerate, and I just stick to those. On top of that, in case it's raining or I really just don't want to leave, I've got a kettlebell, an adjustable push-up machine, and a core roller in my room. That's it. Super simple, always accessible. And then I also have backup energy drinks, and I pop them maybe once or twice a week. I know myself. Once I start drinking caffeine, I have to do something productive, or I risk having a full-blown anxiety spiral if I just lay in bed. So I kind of just use that as my advantage. But truth is, simplicity has an upfront cost. It took me years of trial and error to find systems and actions that actually work for me. Getting my workout set up to what it looks like now took tons of failed attempts. Same with productivity tools, room design, school routine, all of it. But here's how I approach it now. When I'm feeling full of life, going at 100 miles per hour, that's when I test new systems. That's when I simply just experiment. And I use that momentum to build systems and habits that either tired, sick, or just simply lazy version of me can still follow. And I ask myself, could a version of me, sick, tired, or lazy, follow this? If the answer is yes, then I keep it. The only difference is on quote-unquote bad days, I do medium to low work quality, and on high energy days, I do my best work. It reminds me of a huge issue I used to have, and that was focusing way too much on the end result, instead of just focusing on inputs. I'd get anxious or discouraged by how far away my goals actually felt. But over time, I've trained myself to reframe those things, and just focus on the next action step. For example, instead of thinking about hitting 10,000 YouTube subscribers, I focus on what past me already figured out when I had all the energy. A step-by-step system that even a sick version of me can follow. Here's an example of a small system that I have for my YouTube channel. That system goes, write YouTube script, record it, edit audio, get gameplay footage, make thumbnail on Canva, and upload. That's it. I've got a Google Doc checklist for every video. I follow that once a week, boom, video done. But at the beginning, especially the real beginning, such as the spot that I am at, it's better to focus, in my opinion, on the inputs rather than the outputs. And as long as I follow my systems, I get the dopamine from the process, not the outcome. The outcome at the beginning, in my opinion, is just a cherry on top. If the system leads to a big win, amazing. If not, then it's back to doing the system. I've got so much more I want to say about this particular topic, but I'll cut it here. A lot of other stuff is more psychological and esoteric, probably better suited for another video. And of course, take everything with a grain of salt, but I hope at least one person out there takes something from this or builds an idea off of this. I've been active lately in the comment section, so feel free to start a discussion below.